Have we finally found the best app to edit your photos on an iPad?
Work hard, rest often.
What is going on, everyone? It's Finn, and recently I've been testing out Affinity Photo for the iPad to see if this thing is actually a worthwhile app to play around with, to edit some photos with on the iPad. I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I had to test it for myself. So now that I've played around with it, I'm walking you through not only how to use it, but also if this is something that I would recommend as a professional photographer, and maybe is something that you should look into as well. Now, this is a paid app. It's like $15.99, $14.99 Canadian, or something like that. Now, here's the thing. This is less than my Adobe subscription for 1 month. So, if this turns out to actually be worth it, it'll cost a bit, but it'll save a lot. So we open up Affinity Photo. I'm going to be using the Apple Pencil here as well. I'm going to be editing on the iPad Air 2. I've edited a couple photos in here, so we're going to import. Let's go through some of our recent photos. I copied over a couple different RAW files here, so that way I can actually show you exactly what I'm using. And we're going to start off with a little photo I took earlier in the fall. Takes a minute to come up, and here we go. So at first you want to hit this little develop check mark, and that's just going to make it so you can actually edit the photo. Now right away we're going to want to crop in a little bit. I think it's a little too wide, so we're going to come in a little more, and yeah, we're just going to straighten it out, and you kind of pinch and twist as you need to. If you ever need to hit undo, you just do a little 2-finger tap on there, and that'll undo that. So we hit this little stack layer symbol here. We see our layer there, and then we come down to the 3 dots, go over to the side, and we can see our adjustment layers. I'm going to throw a curves layer on here, basically do a little S-curve type of thing, bring down the highlights, bring up the shadows a little bit. I like how it just kind of gives a bit of a more filmic look overall. Then I want to come down here a little bit more. You can see the different adjustment filters they have. They have quite a few, honestly, and the ones that they have are very powerful as well. So we're gonna go up, and you know what? I think based on this image, I'm gonna warm it up a little bit. So we're gonna come here to our HSL, and I want to make these greens a little more kind of that autumn color, but they're not actually green. They're more of that yellowy color, because this is kind of into fall. So you can see them there. I'm gonna warm them up a little bit, not too much, because then it's gonna get a little weird. So I'm gonna warm them up quite a bit and play with the saturation until I find a nice value there. Probably about 28%. I'm gonna drag it into the greens just to cover all my bases. And I think plus 16 or so is a good look there. Now I can come down here at the side. Let's take a look at some of their other adjustments. You know what? Yeah, well, I kind of want to bring down the exposure a little bit. Yeah, just make it a little moodier for this kind of autumn vibe. Now, I maybe went a little too much here, but they have this cool thing called lens filters. And this, it just adds a bit of a kind of overall color look to everything. And I love this default one they have. It's this kind of orangey vibe over top of everything. And I can just come in here and adjust the opacity of it and make it look really great. Now, I also want to add some levels to this just to make it a little punchier, a little contrastier, because I think it's just a little too flat when I brought down that exposure. So I bring down those blacks a little bit, and to do these, you're just dragging left or right. To the right makes it more intense, and to the left makes it less intense. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with that look there. But now there's a little distraction that I'm seeing here that I want to get rid of. So I'll create a new pixel layer using that little plus icon. And I'm going to go over here on the side and press and hold on that little stamp icon, and that'll bring up the different brushes. And I want to use the healing brush. Now to do this, you press and hold on a spot to make sure that that's the area that you sample, and then you can paint in from there. Now I had a little bit of trouble with this at first because I'm still figuring this program out. I had a little bit of trouble, and that is because I was just trying to heal on the current layer and it's not going off of any other information. So what I actually needed to do here is come down to the side and hit this current layer, tap the arrow there to make it go current and below. And then all of a sudden, magically, I can actually use that healing brush and it's just working off of that sample. I went a little too down here, so I'm gonna just come back, resample the area of where those trees are. That's trees in the background and then the water down there. Just take this boat right out of here. Just, yeah, finish it off nicely. And then we have this little, it might be like a buoy or a little boat or something here off to the side. I'm gonna sample the area there and just paint it in. Nice, okay, that's looking pretty good. Zoom out. And you know what? That's actually looking pretty great like that. I'm pretty happy with how this looks. It's that nice, it's not too dramatic, that nice fall vibe. Pretty happy with it. We'll see a little before and after here of what everything that we did looks like. And now we'll go across and we'll select these different layers. To do so, we're just gonna swipe past each of them and hit this little puzzle piece icon, and that'll group them together. We'll turn those off and you can see the difference that makes. It just makes it moodier, gives it a lot more feeling overall. And then now to export this, we'll go up here to this little page icon with the 3 dots, go down, hit export, and then here's all your different parameters that you can use to export this. You can either hit OK and save it somewhere in your files, save it as a different name, all that kind of stuff. Or you can just come down, hit share, and then save the image. So now we're gonna go on to our next photo. We'll go import. And now we have a little bit of a different shot. This is kind of like a little silhouette. We got a record player here. It's just like some morning vibes. You put on a record, that kind of thing. Some nice light coming in through the window. Really like this shot. So again, we'll come in, hit develop, and then we're gonna immediately, I think it's a little off center, so I wanna crop it in. So we're just gonna tilt this a little bit, come in a little tighter. Yeah, something like that's pretty good. Got that in the lower third, the record. Yeah, that's better. A little tighter there. And now I really like the look of this, but I think I wanna make it a little moodier, kind of like the other one, and make that light coming in from the outside a little glowier overall. There's nothing really distracting that I see here I want to take out. So we'll bring down another curves layer and give that kind of S curve again. Just raise those shadows, lower those highlights, even everything out, and make it a little more filmic, give it a little more substance to it there. Now, we'll add some color balance, and what I want to do, there's the cyan and red, the magenta green, and the yellow blue. I'm gonna drag these over to see what they do. I really like adding about like 20% or so of red. And then I wanna add a little bit of green and then a little bit of yellow just to give it kind of that nice cozy vibe. And I really like how that looks. So now to get that glow, I really wanna drag up this curve. And what we can do here is go over to these 3 little sliders, and that'll bring up our channels, hit the 3 dots beside that adjustment and hit invert. And now it's a black layer mask, and we can take the paintbrush, go down here, select white, and then we can paint where we actually want that to be. So I'm gonna increase the width, slide on that guide, take down the flow a lot, so as I go over it, it's not super intense right off the bat. And then I'm just gonna paint in here where I want that glow to be, like it's coming in from the window. And I'm gonna feather it off to the sides a little bit so it hits the record, it hits the blinds, it hits the couch, almost as if you're getting that glow coming in from outside. Just really add some ambience to this overall shot. And I think that's looking pretty good. Now one thing, this might be a little much, so I'm gonna come over here and tap twice on the curves adjustment. Bring that opacity down quite a bit. I think about 30% or so is looking good for me there. And you know what? I'm gonna bring down the exposure a little bit just because I think it's a little bright. And I'm gonna select those 4 different layers, and we can see we turn them on and off. And it just gives a little bit of a more indie kind of cozy mood overall. And is a look that I really like. We can hit share, save the image to the iPad there. That is a great look. Now, I think it's time we edit a portrait. change it up a little bit. This is from a recent shoot I did, and I really wanted to play around with this shot. Now we got a beautiful, beautiful light here, beautiful dressed pose, everything. I would have liked to maybe get some of her other foot in there, but what can you do? So we'll go over here, and these are your different filters. The 3 dots are your different adjustments, but these are your filters, and you can see there's a lot here. There's different emboss, you'll get like your high pass, a bunch of different filters for different effects that you would use, kind of similar to Photoshop. But what I want to do here is a little bit of skin retouching, and there's a technique that they have right built in here called frequency separation, and that's going to separate your texture and your color. So what I'm going to do is come over here, open up our layers panel, again that little stack of layers, and the low frequency, that underlying layer is your color. And then the high frequency, the black and white layer you see, that's your texture. So that's all your really skin texture. So we're gonna come over here and get the healing brush, and we're gonna sample a couple different areas and just paint it in, so that way different shadows and color and skin tone and stuff like that, it's just smoothed out a little bit. For example, maybe I want to come under her eyes a little bit, so I'll sample an area like there or so. Then I'll just kind of paint on her upper cheekbone and blend it in a little bit there. Come under her eye. Maybe that's a little dark, so I'll double tap that again. And okay, yeah, that's better there. Now we can come down here to the neck and kind of just smooth out a lot of the detail here, because we don't want to forget to retouch the neck as well if we're retouching the face. So we'll just kind of sample that area, paint it in a little bit, and just hit these different areas. Maybe I want to soften this kind of highlight you see on the cheek, take down some of those areas there. So I'll soften the brush size here. I'll take the size down quite a bit. I'm just going to sample the area up here and just paint it in nicely. Let's see, yeah, something like that area should be good. Paint it in there, and that's looking pretty good. Just takes down some of that intensity from what we were getting before. We can see the arms, I'm pretty okay with how they look there. Then we'll go up here and choose a high frequency. Now this is all our detail, different blemishes and stuff like that we'll take out. And this we're going to change to the in-painting brush, and this is gonna just kind of, any area you paint over, it's going to do that like kind of content aware style where it just finds the information surrounding it and kind of fills it in there. So it just takes down a lot of those weird areas, or if you have different spots or stuff like that, you can even use it on this little white spot on the dress there and just take that away. Make it nice and easy there. A fantastic technique, and one that is actually simplified in comparison to Photoshop on this guy, which I'm a big fan of. At first I had to try to find it and go through all these different parameters, but I like it. Now I came in here, I'm gonna do a little bit of a crop just to give it a bit of a different look. And maybe we'll do the original ratio, but I think I almost want it a bit wider. Let's do like a 16:9 or something. So we can tap on the X here, and that'll be a 16. We'll tap on the Y, and that little number pad comes up, 9. We'll crop in a little bit here, kind of something like that. Maybe bring it up at 1, a little bit more. There we go. That's looking pretty good there, I think. Nice, nice. Yeah, I like the look that it gives there. And she's getting this beautiful backlight. Now there's something bothering me here. So I'm gonna make a new pixel layer, create a healing brush, and we're gonna sample this little wood area here on the floor, because that little black spot is annoying me and it distracts me a lot. I noticed it even when I was looking through photos to use for this. Make sure to put that to current and below on every photo you take, because it will reset if you're using different photos. That's why it wasn't working. So hit current and below again, just to make sure. And then I'll come down here and I'm gonna have a curves layer, and this, I'm gonna do a bit of dodging and burning here. So I'm basically going to highlight and contour her face just to make it pop a little bit more. So I'll come down here to the 3 little sliders again, invert that in the channels, get a white colored brush, And I want to take the size of that way down. I'm using a super small flow here, like 6%, so it's really nice and soft and even as we're going. A hardness of 0%. And she's got a bit of darkness under the eyes here that I just kind of want to fill in. And I also want to brighten those eyes a little bit, but that's a little too much. So I'm actually going to bring the flow down 1% and bring the opacity like to 50% or something. It's just a little too intense for my liking. So now I'm just going to paint in with a bit of a larger brush so it is a little more feathered there. Paint in under that eye to kind of bring that up a little bit and over the cheekbone, almost acting like a natural highlight. What I like to do is kind of go off of the natural bone structure. So the bridge of the nose, tops of the eyebrows, that forehead area. You can do the tops of the lips and like kind of darken on the outsides of them just to make everything pop a little bit more on the jawline and stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to do here. Just kind of go through, hit the eyebrow, come down with a larger brush and get that jawline going on there. This is just all contouring out everything. This is basically what women do with their faces on the regular. Now this is looking really intense and kind of weird. If I turn that on and off, it's a little too much. I went a little crazy here. So that is when we are just gonna blend things in a little bit more, kind of go over things a little bit more there. And we're just gonna double tap on the adjustment for the curves layer there, bring that opacity down to like 50% because that is way too intense otherwise. Now at 50%, that's looking a lot more natural, like everything's still defined, but it's not super intense. So I'm pretty happy there, and maybe I just want to blend things out a little bit more now that I can see where I need to hit exactly, now that we're zoomed out a little bit. I'll come out here with a larger brush, and then I'll come in a little tighter and just hit all these areas and soften things out a little bit so it's not super intense. And then to make things all fit a little better, I'm also just going to contour and highlight out the arms a little bit. And here's the thing, I'm mainly going off of the natural highlights and shadows presented here and just following the curves in the natural body. And that's a great way to do this. Now you can use this to emphasize and take away different things, but that's the general idea. Now I noticed she didn't have an earring here, so that hole was a little distracting for me when we zoomed in. So I'm just gonna create a new pixel layer, grab that healing brush, and we're just gonna go over that guy there. Super simple little things to keep an eye on that you can take out in a matter of seconds. I want to make a new curves layer, and this is gonna be kind of our contour layer, or like our darkening layer. Our burning layer, I guess, if we're dodging and burning. We'll invert that again and come a little closer, drag the size of that brush down again, and now I'm just hitting that jawline so you can see it's a little more refined and sticks out a little bit more. Carry it up towards the ear, and we can zoom in and start working on some of these other areas, like on top of the eye, on the sides of the nose rather than the bridge of the nose. So now we're just intensifying the shadows. So we just want to go off of all of those natural shadows there. This also includes like the under of the cheekbones, the temples, different stuff like that that we can keep an eye on. So I'm just going to go here around the lip, almost using like a lip liner, like again women do with makeup and stuff like that. Basically the whole idea of dodging and burning somebody's face is just what people do with makeup. That's all it is, but just with brightening and darkening certain areas in post. So we're coming in here and we're just going to darken some different areas on top of the eyes a little bit just to make those stand out a little more. By on top of the eyes I mean the eyelids there. And we can come through, get those temples, hit the hairline a little bit, just contour things out a little bit more there. And that's looking pretty good. Drag the size up of that guy a little bit more, and then I can come back, and now I'm just going to go on either sides of the arms just to intensify those shadows a little bit. And this is what we do with lighting anyways, is we try to contour to the body to make everything look more flattering. And I'm even going to come in here and just refine out these collarbones a little bit, just again, same principle, dodging and burning, just gonna contour those out. And you can see it just makes everything pop a little bit more and adds some more definition to things. Now we can bring those two layers together and we'll group them, and we can see between the two, actually makes a big difference there. Like for just highlighting and darkening certain areas, it makes a big difference and kind of shapes the face a little bit more. This is just a technique that you can use with your photos just to enhance on somebody's face already. So now we'll give a good old-fashioned S-curve like we've been doing. Just flatten things out a little bit. Now that might be a little much, so I'll soften that down a little bit. Drag the opacity down, probably like 34 or so %. Now I think I want to throw a lens filter on here. Oh, that looks so good with the light coming through. Now let's play around, see the different colors here. I kind of like that orangey color. If I drag that guy around, if I go black, it does nothing. If I go white, it does nothing. If I come here, okay, I like right about here, I think. And I'll drag the opacity down so it's not so intense. I think that looks really nice. We get that really golden glow, almost like the sun's low in the sky coming through those windows in the background. Forgot the word window for a second. Now I'm gonna do a little hue, saturation, luminance, because I think the color of the dress isn't as intense as it could be. To the naked eye, it's a little more intense in person. So I just kind of want to up that a little bit. Now, if I drag the luminance up too much, it'll desaturate that as well. But I'll brighten it a little bit, and I'll bring that saturation up probably like 35% or so. You can see it's not the biggest difference, but it just adds that little bit of pop. It affects her lips too, but I don't mind the way it affects them. I think it actually works for it. So I'm happy with how that looks. Now let's group these together, and we can see if we turn that off and we turn the dodging and burning off, that is such an interesting look. And this is the type of edit I would do in Photoshop anyways. Like I wouldn't edit this just in Lightroom or anything like that. I'd go the full 9 yards. So let's export that and save that guy. Now, those are 3 completely different photos edited all in Affinity Photo. Now, what do I actually think of this program? I am actually incredibly surprised because I can edit the way I edit in Photoshop on my laptop, on my desktop computer. I can edit like that in Affinity Photo, on the iPad, on the go. I can edit a photo the way I regularly would. Now, the one thing is I think I still need to play around with it a little bit more to figure out where all the different things are and what does what, and just get familiar with it where I know it like the back of my hand, because I've been using Photoshop for many, many years. Even when I was in high school, I was playing around with Photoshop, making posters and different things. So I'm very familiar with the layout. And I've been using it for a long time, so it's second nature to me. So that's why I'm so proficient and so fast with it, where if I'm editing a full shoot, I can get through it pretty quick. But with this, it would take longer. And I think that's where the main thing is for me, is efficiency. Because you can pretty much do the same things, it might just not be as quick. And maybe that's just because I'm not super familiar with it. And maybe with time, I will be more, and maybe I'll use it quite a bit more often. But the thing is, the iPad before, I would really only use mainly for either photos of life, like just different moments and stuff like that, editing film scans and stuff like that, or if I'm editing like YouTube thumbnails and just want quick edits that I'm not going in anything detailed with. Like all my work is edited in Photoshop, but I think this is the first app I found for the iPad that's made it so I can actually properly edit like I like to on an iPad, like doing the frequency separation, that skin retouching. That is a game changer that I can do that right from this. I'm pleasantly surprised. Honestly, I feel like, I mean, it's definitely worth the like $15 or what have you. And if I didn't have my laptop with me and I needed to edit a bunch of photos, I could actually do it with Affinity Photo. I could actually make it work on my iPad. And the other thing is, editing this on the iPad Air 4, I was screen recording the entire time as well. So screen recording and doing heavy editing of uncompressed RAW files. It didn't crash once. It didn't lag behind. It was super fast. And the performance out of this thing is absolutely insane. So I'm very pleasantly surprised there. Let me know your thoughts. Have you used Affinity Photo before? What was your experience like? And would you use this for editing your photos on the go on an iPad? Do we even need desktop computer setups anymore? Let me know your thoughts down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Work hard, rest often, and as always, I will see you on the next one.